Good morning, Terry Marsden.
Good morning.
You have a long and recognized experience in food systems, both in Wales and in other countries. Could you tell us a few words about that?
Yeah, well, I've been studying agri-food systems for a long time, both in the UK, but also in Europe and other parts of the world. And as the agenda, in fact, has become more established and urgent.
Thank you. So recently you've been taking part in a report for the Welsh government called A Welsh Food System Fit for Future Generation. And I believe it's a lot about the resilience of the food system. Could you tell us more about that and the main conclusions of this report?
Yeah, I put the slide up there of the main report. We were commissioned by the WWF World Wide Fund to do an independent report over the course of the last 12 months on the Welsh food system for future generations. You may or may not know that Wales has a statutory law for future generations for delivering on sustainability. And the whole point of the report really was to look at the way in which a Welsh food system could build resilience and fit in to and be compatible with the overall objectives of the Future Generations Act in Wales, because there was a general feeling that those two things were going in separate directions. That was the main motivation for the report. I can tell you a little bit more about the report.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I mean, the big question really, which is a broader question than just in Wales, but it's the challenge we all face from the SDGs and everything else, is how to deliver healthy, nutritious food for all, given the shrinking resources, growing population, climate change, biodiversity loss. A major challenge both globally and in Wales. And the question is how in a small country can the food system be reorganized to deal with these challenges. And as a result of that, we wanted to fit the food system in Wales or to look at the way we could recalibrate it in terms of the future generations. This isn't the first report that's tried to reorganize the Welsh food system. I was involved 10 years ago in 2010 in a similar exercise, putting forward a new Welsh food strategy. So I had some experience in trying to adopt a more resilient, sustainable food system in Wales over a 15, 20-year period. And it's hard. That's one of the problems. It's not easy. And so there are competing forces. And this is why we had to restate this report in this way. Now, we use Professor Claire Lemine's model of integrated systems approach to food in the report. So again, we emphasize the need to see food system as a systems approach, which includes production, agriculture, environment, health, and food, and how to integrate these things together. So this is a multi-dimensional approach to applying the food system in Wales. And on that basis, the strategy we came up with was thinking for the long term. It was about integration, about prevention of negative ecological practices, for instance, and bad diet, poor diets, and involvement and collaboration. So these are some of the basic principles, in fact, of the Future Generations Act, ways of working, and we were attempting to apply these to the Welsh food system. And we came up with, let me move on here, came up with 10 major building blocks for the Welsh food system over a 10-year period, over this next 10 years mainly, but actually needing to be quite urgent about it, through both production, consumption, and in fact infrastructure. So I think there are three aspects to this that need building. One is on changing production systems. Secondly, encouraging more healthy consumption of foods, not least Welsh foods, but obviously we import a lot of food as well, and encouraging more sustainable diets, what's often called ecological health. And then thirdly, to enable both improvements at the production end and the consumption end. We realized, and have done for a considerable amount of time actually, that we need new infrastructures. It's not enough to just change consumer habits, and it's not enough just to change production habits. You need infrastructures in between production and consumption, including new forms of extension and knowledge sharing. You need new types of food hubs, and you need new digital infrastructures, not least, to bring these connections together. And actually, this is a critical point for the building a resilient food system, is the infrastructure question that I think is important. So you'll see here in this list, there are sections on digital markets, creating digital markets, building a considerable experience in Wales on food cooperatives, sustainable food hubs, which is actually physical hubs of exchanging food systems, and local food procurement. So these are infrastructures linking more sustainable production with sustainable consumption. And the whole report was about actually trying to build this, in fact, creating a much more diverse food system than we currently have. Some see this as an attack on corporate retailing or corporate control of the food system. And I think we can argue that that has gone too far, both in processing and in retailing. And so the big message with this is about diversity and creating not only biodiversity, but ecological and social diversity in the provisioning of foods in this particular country and region. So the report goes into some detail on these 10 interlinked themes. And it's good to say that those have been supported. We've given this presentation and the report to ministers in the Welsh government. We've created this Food Alliance, and that's come up with a manifesto, which I sent now, which is a group of organizations, including the environmental groups, but also food consumers organizations, and to a certain extent, some of the farmers' unions coming together, trying to build a coalition around these sorts of changes.
Okay. Yes, we hear a lot also the criticism from the mainstream system that rebuilding these parallel systems is less efficient. I guess you've heard that about this new infrastructure that you promote.
Yeah.
We have this question regarding the forum. You know that Wales and Brittany are sort of cousins. What do you suggest we could do together for our future, for the future of our food systems?
Yeah, well, I think there are already some established links between Brittany and Wales in the Welsh government, and I've already raised this with the Welsh government on the food system, and they're very keen to explore ways. I mean, not least in terms of sharing good practice. There are some examples in our report of case studies, and indeed in our manifesto of case studies of good practice. So I think in a minimal way, we can share good practice and interchange, and also, but also trying to influence the politicians, I think, is absolutely critical. We have an election in Wales in May 21.
Okay.
One of the reasons we've come up with this manifesto now, so that we can try to influence the political, the elections and the political parties, which is actually quite critical here in this process. So we realize that it's not enough, and I've suffered from this problem. I've experienced this problem in the past. It is no good just as academics and scientists producing very nice and elegant reports like this one, like our Welsh food report. It's all very good. The question is getting those mobilized then into the political and policy regime. And this is where I experienced problems in the past with our 2010 report on a Welsh food system strategy. Much of it got shelved and sidelined at best by the political system because of other priorities and, you know, for other reasons. So by linking this directly to statutory legislation in Wales on the Future Generations Act and the Environment Act, where the government has a duty to deliver for future generations, we want to put food right at the heart of that system. That's the main sort of message. And I think we could share our experiences about how we can mobilize this across, in many cases, across party political boundaries, actually. It's almost not necessarily a party political issue. It's more an issue of general intent. It's above party politics in many respects in this sort of sense. But I do think it's really important for Brittany and Wales to come together and partner on how regional food systems can now really be part of the future. And I know in France, I read some very good work on regional food systems and the reconstruction of regional food systems in certain French regions, including Brittany. So I think that we can learn a lot and leverage more influence by working in collaboration.
Thank you very much for your insights regarding this report and how you are working on implementing it in the local policies. Thank you very much, Terry.
Okay.
Bye.
Right.